Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is presented this year by Townsend Automotive in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The Honda CR-V has been my favorite vehicle in Honda's lineup for years because it has great gas mileage and can haul a vintage furniture find with ease. In fact, it's so easy for getting out there in general, from the beach to the mountains to even the next photo shoot for a Southern travel article. Purchasing a CR-V from Townsend Honda means purchasing from a family-owned company built on service and connection with its customers, and they want to remind you of the joys of a jaunt down the road. Visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory, or if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Honda salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. The Southern Fork's culinary sponsor is Bottles Beverage Superstore, with 3 South Carolina locations: Columbia, Mount Pleasant, and Summerville. This locally owned beverage superstore is your one-stop shop for wine, beer, spirits, mixers, and party supplies. Whether it's a beer to fill your fishing cooler, a gin with just the right botanicals to brighten up a porch pounder, or a wine that has you dreaming of travel, Bottles carries it. Additionally, the local experts at each Bottles location know their stuff and will be able to help you find your favorites and suggest new or alternate options. All Bottles locations offer curbside pickup, which means less errand time and more time sipping. Visit shopbottles.com to learn more, and cheers to local and delicious sips this season. Chef Lisa Marie White is someone who dares to change. During a pilgrimage in her late 30s on the Camino de Santiago in Europe, she remembered her love of baking and decided to pursue it with a professional passion and a scholar's heart. She's baked all over the country, from Domenica and Willa Jean in New Orleans to the Thompson Hotel in Nashville. And she's now brought her unique style and talent to Biscuit Love in Nashville, a sensational spot you heard about before way back on episode 19. Lisa Marie prefers to be behind the scenes, but I persuaded her to the mic because her knowledge and that pastry passion is always a sugar high. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Lisa White. Do you like Lisa Marie or just Lisa? I never asked you that.
Either one, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Either one?
Yeah.
What do you call yourself in your head? I mean, that you can repeat.
It depends on what's going on. If I hear my mother in my head.
I know, right? Well,
Lisa Marie Burks.
We are sitting right now in the Graduate, Nashville, which is one of the newest hotels in the area that is full of hotels at this point. When I started coming here a decade ago, I think this might have been a Taco Bell.
It was.
Okay.
I was so sad when they tore it down.
Because you live a couple blocks from here. This is gorgeous. My room is beautifully designed and all of that quirky kind of style that I really dig. And I'm with somebody who's quirky that I really dig. So, Lisa, thank you so much for being here. We are going to talk all things sugar and pastry. And you have... And biscuits, of course, biscuits. Which
all my favorite
all
things.
the favorite things. And you've brought a picnic basket for me. Some of my favorite things, including a mimosa. And I'm having some really delicious coffee because I didn't have enough this morning to really get to here. So I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So we were just talking a little bit off mic. Your first professional gig was when you were 18?
I was 18, 17 turning 18. I was right out of high school, and it was in a fish-focused restaurant on Long Island, and it was 1988, y'all.
1988. So there was some kind of blackened fish and rice pilaf going on or something.
And it was a scary place to be.
So I'm a hobby baker too, and I think people that follow along on my Instagram know that. And I personally love quick breads, and I like pound cakes. And we see a trend there because I like to pour it in, put it in the oven, and let it stop. As a Southerner growing up, and especially as a Southern woman coming from a traditional household, that was a place that I could be alone as a middle schooler and a child. You know, learning to cook, and a lot of people start with baking, right?
Yes.
Did you start with baking too, like that at home?
I didn't. Growing up as a child in California, my mom, I was a single parent. She worked. Baking was like pop the can biscuits and like Jell-O pie.
So when did it capture your creative imagination? Because just like all the people that I speak with on the Southern Fork, this is a creative imagination. This is your art, but also your craft.
Yes.
So there has to be a high level of repetition and practice. When did pastry and baking become that place for you to express? I'm guessing it wasn't at the fish restaurant.
Definitely not. It was in my later 20s when it really became my stress reliever, because I had left the restaurant business for all things you can imagine and was like, I need to go to college, and had gotten what I thought was a real job, and you needed that stress relief, the thing where you can like shut your brain off. And so in my late 20s is when I started doing it. And in my late 30s, mid 30s, I did this crazy trip where I took a walk through France and Spain, and just remembered that I loved it. And that
So
was going to be my career.
Came back to it.
Yes.
That's how it is a lot, isn't it?
It was literally, I got back to the States and I applied right away.
to culinary school.
Culinary school, yep.
Right. So pastry is a really exact thing. And baking is very different than cooking.
Yes.
There's, I write for Savor, and my editor said, I wish you would get a scale. And I'm like, you're right. It's way overdue, right? So I've been avoiding the scale, kind of thing, but it's pretty much required in baking because weight and flours have different weight and volume versus size and all of that stuff. And there's not, I hear a lot, there's not a lot of places to experiment, but your work is so creative and yet so grounded. It's like your cinnamon roll at Biscuit Love is a biscuit, but it's still your cinnamon roll, which, by the way, Southern Fork listener, she's really famous for. And, how do you find the places to play?
Because even though in all of those rules, guidelines, structure, there's still room to play. It's just in a different way for one, I just never think that anything is perfect. I will always go back and revisit something, even the biscuit or the cinnamon roll, and be like, what if I'll like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, we need to try this new spice. Maybe that'll make it amazing. Even though I know it already is, I just and then I'll try it 10 different ways and literally like lay out, like to me, that
so
creativity.
It's more of like a scientist. You're just trying
Yes.
to like, I have this hypothesis and I'm going to do these experiments and
Yes.
see.
And we'll literally do like,
Because there's a lot of chemistry.
There is. And in like when I was working on my pie recipe, I think I had 20 different versions of pie dough out until I found what I love of a pie recipe, because everyone's got their own, and that's okay.
I've been on a quest during 2020 to come to my pie crust, and I think that I have. It's Allie Rosen's grandmother's pie crust. Allie is a past guest of the Southern Fork, and she shared it. And it's not like I don't have a plethora of other pie crusts that I could, but that one just seems to work with how I work.
And what's the fat in it?
Butter.
And anything else?
No. It's just
That's
about
awesome.
freezing. It's about,
Yes.
you have to freeze the dough and
Playing with those temperatures, it's always a thing.
And, you have to just plan ahead a little bit more.
Yes.
What is your pie dough?
It's mostly butter, but a tiny bit of shortening.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then you get the flake and the flavor, but you also get that little bit of crumbliness that you get from a shortening lard type of pie dough.
I do like that crumble.
I like a little bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a lot of people use leaf lard,
Yes.
right?
That's a lot of work.
I think so too. But I love the way it tastes. Like
Yes.
Kia Mastriani is the one who introduced me to leaf lard. And, she has milk glass pie and it's amazing and delicious stuff. Another guest of the Southern Fork. Y'all see, I got a pastry problem here. But when you do that, how do you replicate it for production?
Then that's the next round of testing, because some things don't work. Like just a couple weeks ago, Carl Worley was like, I have this idea about carrot cake jam. And I was like, oh, Lord, that sounds terrible. But I'll try. And I made it and it was so good. It literally tastes like carrot cake, but without all the flour and all the things. And so then I was like, great, I'm going to ramp it up. And I made a whole entire kettle full. And it was terrible.
Oh my goodness.
Because I didn't stop and think like, let's test a little bit bigger and then a little bit bigger.
But that's because it goes back to that volume and that weight thing. And
Yes.
like, there's just some things, the doubles. And you and I can spend, hours down this rabbit hole of like technicalities.
Yes.
But what is that recipe? Do you remember the first recipe that you like developed on your own? Do you remember what it was?
Yes.
What was it?
It was the chocolate espresso cookie at Domenica.
Oh, will you tell us about that?
So I was working in an Italian restaurant and everything has nuts. Most people don't know, I am very allergic to nuts. And so I wanted a treat for myself. And so I remembered that chocolate like crinkle cookie,
Yes.
but I decided it didn't have enough chocolate. So I just kept adding and adding and adding. And so it's at the point now where it's just barely held together and it's got a little bit of a crispy shell on the outside, but in the inside it's like brownie fudge. It's delicious. And then the espresso and the salt brings out the caramel in the espresso. And so you just get all these flavors.
Wow. And when you tasted it, you're like, I think I'm doing this. Right?
I was like, oh, this works.
Yeah.
I can do this.
But it's difficult right now. We're seeing such a shifting of the guard. And I think that was happening before the pandemic. We were losing a lot of pastry positions.
Yes. The era, I don't know what to call what we're in right now, but what scares me is that it's the death of the pastry chef. And understandably so. Restaurants can't afford to staff plus another chef that just makes desserts when in their mind they can make some bread pudding and creme brulee and just be done.
Or you can outsource it. That's happening a lot in Charleston. And, like Life Raft Treats is doing the not fried chicken for some of the fun places, and that's a way, that's a service for them, you know, to work in a wholesale capacity. But it's that idea of you're working during the day when the rest of the chef staff, so you have the morning shift, and then you have to teach somebody how to plate it.
Yes, and think about all the ways they might mess it up.
Right. So, yes.
Not to be negative, but
that person, that dedicated pastry professional that is in the evening service was the first person that I saw cut because they thought, well, a Sue from the line can do this. Not they, like I'm stereotyping, but a lot of chefs and a lot of restaurants said, well, a Sue can learn how to plate this because the Sue is doing very complicated things too.
Yes.
But it's just a different world. But if you've been up since 4 a.m. feeding a starter and letting it rise and creating all this stuff, you can't be working at 11 p.m.
No, you can't. You just can't. And you need the space to actually make all the things. Mm-hmm. So I hope it comes back. I do. I just know when I moved to New Orleans in 2009, the pastry chef was just starting to come back then. Mm-hmm. And it's like 10 years later.
Because that's the European model.
Yes.
That's really what we're looking at there. But on the other hand, Biscuit Love gives you the place to really experiment and to be there when everybody else is there too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So talk to me about biscuit dough and Biscuit Love is so many different kinds of biscuits, and you had your biscuit and Carl had his biscuit, and there's just different kinds of biscuits. How has working with that dough begun to inspire you? Because that's it's more of a quick bread kind of thing.
It is, and they trusted me to change their biscuit, which is pretty a big honor, I think. And the switch has been able to give me a little bit more of a life, which is what I was searching for. And that flaky biscuit, just people get enraptured by it. I don't know. I just think of it, it's just a biscuit.
All right. Well, we have to go into the biscuits. Let's talk about it. Let's get a little techie. So, because they're angel biscuits, they're drop biscuits, they're beaten biscuits. There are
100 different
fast
kinds
food, crusty biscuits. I make Callie's biscuits. That's my biscuit because I used to be a production baker for Callie's biscuits. So my hands just know what to do without thinking, you know? So what is your biscuit?
Mine's the flaky. The Grands pop the can.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just because that's what I grew up with. Mm-hmm. And then later in life, I was like, there's no way I could create that. But, along the way, you pick up a technique from this person and something from this person. And
I'm guessing lamination is probably part of that.
Lamination. I first learned that at Della Fattoria in Northern California. Kathleen Weber.
Mm. Lamination. Do you have particular feelings as you move around and this world morphs and changes in different paces? Mm-hmm. Is there an ingredients that are always in your pastry kitchen? Do you have brand connections and favorites?
I don't. I definitely have favorites.
Okay.
I'm getting all excited. My favorite things are vanilla, of course.
Which has shot up in price.
It's gross, I know. Dark brown sugar. I do have an affinity for cane syrup from Louisiana, not in the yellow can. And then flaky handmade salt. I would say those are my always go-tos. Mm-hmm. But they change so much in different things, which I think is the exciting part.
Mm-hmm. And salt in American dessert, it's has always been there a little bit, but like salt as a garnish seems to have really taken off like in the past 15, like that salted flake salt chocolate chip cookie that now like you can't ever have a chocolate chip cookie without that. Once you have it, you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing, right?
Yes.
Do you like to do that kind of thing, or do you like to go your own way, or how would you describe your style, I think is what I'm asking. If you had to describe your style, because you definitely do have one, but I'm having a hard time because I'm just thinking well, it changes over the years, right? So it changes as you change. And so I think originally it like 10, 12 years ago, it maybe was super farm flavor driven, balanced. I'm always really trying to make sure it's balanced and it like takes a ride in your mouth. And then I like came to Nashville and I was like just into having fun and throwing glitter on things. And I didn't care if people thought it was funny or goofy or gimmicky. I was like, I'm having fun. This is what I want to do. And now I'm just figuring out what the next thing is. Like, I just turned 50. So like for some reason that number just makes you start thinking. Yeah. That brings up a point that we've talked about. I've had the wonderful opportunity to interview you a couple times over the years, and you were a guest when I've been asking for a couple of years. And I thought I would just be like, why are they not getting back to me? What's going on with that? So as you're turning 50 and you're thinking about this work and you're thinking about the evolution of you as a creative, how do you think about this work as a safe haven for you? Because I know that there are edges to it, right? There's a safety.
And it definitely can go in different directions, right? So like there's a safety and then there's the fringes that are not safe. And just to like roll it back a little bit, one of my big things when I left my family in California to do this crazy life, it was that I just really wanted to make them proud. Like the exchange of missing out on all the holidays and all the things was that I was going to go and I was going to make them really proud of me. 'Cause y'all, my mom thinks like Apple Farm is the shiznit.
I don't know what Apple Farm is.
I mean, Apple, one of those chain, Outback.
Outback, yeah.
One of those things. She loves those things. That's not my jam.
Right.
And then when I felt like I wasn't successful or that I didn't make them proud, I just buried my head in it. And either I go into random like history of some crazy pastry or techniques that are dying off. And I like want to figure that out, and hide in it, like you said, and feel safe and come out again, I guess, when I've risen or something. I don't know.
Well, no, you come out when you have something to give again, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, because I was tapped out.
Yeah. So when you're tapped out, you go back in. And I think artists do that. I think you give a lot, and the way that you replenish yourself is to give yourself a gift of like a research project, right? It's a way to kind of occupy your mind in the work instead of people's reaction to your work, whether that be your family or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're totally right. Do you ever have the feeling like with that chocolate espresso cookie or other things like laminating a biscuit, do you ever have that feeling of proud satisfaction? Are you proud of yourself? Or are you always looking ahead to the next thing?
I try to be proud in the moment, but I'm a perfectionist and a Leo. But it is something that I'm trying as I'm, that work-life balance, which I don't know that exists, but I
think we
really
swing
hard.
by it as we on the pendulum. I go like, no, I'm not doing that, and I swing by. Whoa, there's a balance as I swing by.
There it goes.
There it goes.
Dang, I lost what I was saying.
No, but you do try to have that. You do try to be in the present. That's what you were saying.
Yeah, because I think I got really distracted of not being in the present moment. And I'm trying in my time now that I'm in Nashville and with Biscuit Love to just be really in the moment, present, focused with what I'm doing. Like, it sounds silly, but even just like I don't take the phone with me everywhere I go. Mm-hmm. Just like little things like that. Even if I can make one step forward, I'm trying.
The other part of this creative thing, this craft, is that you can't get away from the reaction because you're making something literally for other people to consume, right?
True.
Which is what art is. You're always making it to consume. And not all of us are really good. We always want to peek around the corner and see what they think. But Biscuit Love gives you that opportunity because 20 years in a pastry kitchen, you didn't see that very often.
No. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to like.
And Biscuit Love is like, y'all, Biscuit Love has multiple locations, but they also have like a line at the door. Lisa brought me a picnic basket because I couldn't get there. And I mean, I'm here for days. And, you know, we just couldn't figure out a time that I could come in, you know? How is it seeing people enjoy your food? I mean, it's got to be cool, right?
I still kind of don't believe it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, I just chalk it up to like, oh, they're hungry.
Oh, no. That's horrible. But it's a good segue. 50. What is making you hungry?
Oh, you're good. Learning makes me hungry.
Mm-hmm. You're on a marzipan project right now, I remember?
I am. I'm going to murder how you pronounce it. It's Italian. It's Fruta de Martorona.
It's like the Sicilian
sculpted marzipan. And it's realistic and trying to figure that out and how they make those molds, like the whole process.
I think I saw like 150 goldfish on some table in your house recently on Instagram. You should follow her on Instagram for that kind of thing. I love marzipan and almond are like my favorite.
Here's the funny thing is I am so allergic to it. And it was in like every table in my tiny apartment, like on my bedstand. And I'm like, woke up the other day and I was like, that's can't be smart, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, because it's almond paste, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes.
Almond sugar paste, right?
Yes. A little egg white.
Yeah. So where are you in that journey? Are you getting some headway? Figuring it out?
I think I need to go to Sicily.
Wow. That's going to be hard.
Hopefully someday soon.
Great. Let me know and I'll go with you.
Okay.
We'll do an article. Maybe. Yes. We might just eat marzipan and ice cream and walk around and sip olive oil and wine.
Oh, does that not sound dreamy?
I know. It does sound dreamy, especially right now, right?
Yes.
So what is one aspect of this job that has kept you engaged for many years that really meshes with an aspect of your personality, like a puzzle piece, kind of fits?
Oh, that it's always changing. I don't want to pivot as much as 2020 has made everyone pivot, which also is change, but I love change. Like you can transform yourself from a pastry chef to a director of a restaurant or like go to front of the house, or you can really become or do anything you want to do in this industry, which I think is pretty awesome.
That's cool.
For a bunch of us misfit pirates.
It's true. We are misfit pirates. Thank you, Bourdain. Miss that man. What keeps you up at night?
Well, on the good side, I'll like wake up with a crazy food idea. Like, oh, we got to make this. Yes, that totally wakes me up at 2:00 in the morning. The other is how the industry is going to bounce back, and how to take care of all of our people, and how can we do better so we don't get into this again, and we don't trust that the higher powers are going to help us, because they didn't.
We need to make ourselves more resilient internally.
Yes.
Not just as people, but as businesses. And
Yes,
sustainability. I think in a lot of ways we realize that the restaurant industry is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable model.
No. And so how can we move forward? And I think a lot of our stuff is we react instead of planning, and that's probably the pastry chef in me. I want to plan ahead for the next disaster, and how can I make it so that we can help everyone and it not be as crazy and chaotic as it can be.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good. That's good. I think you read the email. She gets these questions at the end. I was like, wow, that was super prepared. All right. Well, for the first time ever, I have received a picnic basket today, but nevertheless, I do have one for you too.
Yes!
And it is my magic picnic basket. It made it to Nashville, even though it was checked luggage. With it, I can time travel. I can go back and conscript anybody to make any dish that you love. I can source for you, even going to Sicily. And I can cook a little bit. I make a biscuit. I make a pound cake. I make some fried okra. You know, the traditional stuff. But I'd love to bring you some of your favorite things. And they don't have to all go together. It doesn't have to be a composed coursed meal. What can I bring you?
Okay. I'm super excited about this.
Okay, I'm ready. I've got my coffee. I'm ready.
I kind of feel like there's two separate baskets, because
Whoa. Okay. No big deal.
and you didn't say I couldn't have more than one. So the first one is fresh strawberries, satsumas, and like cheesy meat. Like, I'm a picker when I eat. And
like charcuterie boards.
I'd like a charcuterie board with all the yummies, and some bottles of lovely grapes of all kinds. And that sounds awesome. The other one, because you said time travel.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh. Wouldn't it be amazing to try something from like Julia Child?
Yes. Yes, it would.
And then Margaret Howery, which most people don't know her, but she's always, when people ask you who do you want to sit across from in a dinner, she's from the era of the Civil War in New Orleans, and she fed and sold cookies / crackers, biscuits, whatever it was called back then, to both sides of the line, and really created this huge foster kid system in New Orleans. So her, because what does that cookie taste like that both sides of the war ate it?
Right.
Sherry Yard, I've never had anything from her, and I would just love to eat something
Will you
from her.
tell people who that is as well?
She's a famous pastry chef from California who I don't believe is still creating, but she teaches now and is on TV. But gosh, to try a plated dessert from her would be just so exciting.
You are allowed to have two, because both of those are awesome.
Oh, and Massimo in Italy.
Oh, yes, of course. Hello.
Just popped into my brain. I was like, oh, we forgot him.
Yeah, amazing. Well, that's going to be a fun trip for me. But if people want to learn more about Lisa Marie White and Biscuit Love and her work, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I have been honored to know her for a few years now, but I would love for you to get to know her better too. So go there. You'll be able to click through the link, see the face behind the voice. Also, while you're there, at the bottom of her page, there's going to be other episodes that you might enjoy. And I promise you, I enjoy pastry, and I enjoy pastry chefs and speaking with people who bake. So there's a lot more where this came from. And I'd love for you to subscribe. So every week, this podcast is waiting in your podcast app. But I'm going to have to go now. because she's brought a selection of biscuits and jam, and I've only had coffee, so it's time. Thank you so much for doing this today and finally saying yes, because I wouldn't quit asking.
Thank you for having me.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. You heard Lisa Marie and I use possessive terms when we were talking about our pie crust or our biscuit, like my biscuit, my pie crust. And that's because the more I get into this work, the more I realize that it's not just a recipe. It's the combination of the recipe and the cook and the access to ingredients that really makes something amazing. So when you talk about my mom made the best blah, 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 it usually means your favorite. And it's probably because she had made it so many times that she had mastered it in a way. It had become hers. It had her unique stamp on that dish, whatever it was. And, when it comes to baking, we definitely see this tradition. I have a pie crust. I have a biscuit. Well, not really yet a pie crust. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on mastering that. But I have a biscuit and I have a pound cake. Yeah. And those are things that I've made so many times. And whatever the recipe is, the little tweak it is, works with my style of cooking. And that can be anything from how I like to prep to the ingredients that I usually keep on hand. So I encourage you, if you're interested in cooking and having some go-to dishes to take along with you, I think that making the same thing or finding your personal go-to in a category like my steak or my pound cake really can help add confidence in the kitchen. And it's always an easy thing for sharing. So, we're possessive, but that's what that 10,000 hours is, isn't it? Those of us that are cooking our whole lives, that's what we're going to clock in at some point. So thanks so much for listening. And remember, Biscuit Love is episode 19. So you want to pop back into the archives and hear more about Biscuit Love from Carl and Sarah Worley. And I'm also going to put that on Lisa Marie's episode page. So hope you enjoyed it and talk to you next week. You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?